Welcome back to the 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. My name is Wayne Kimmel, managing partner of 76 Capital and host of this podcast. Today, my guest is Alex Kades. Alex is a former Division I soccer player, youth soccer coach, and content creator with 100,000 followers sharing opinion-based videos on all things soccer. Alex, welcome to our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show.
Wayne, thanks for having me. Really excited to be on the podcast and excited to talk sports, but obviously in particular soccer with the World Cup being less than 5 months out. It's a very interesting time and a very exciting time to be involved in the sport.
I mean, you're there wearing your University of Pennsylvania, hoodie there, whatever it is. I mean, like it looks great, and I know that's where you played soccer in college, and since then you've gone on and done all these exciting things across the soccer landscape. But before we get into all that stuff, we got to dive straight into the World Cup. I mean, World Cup's right around the corner. What do you think the World Cup? What kind of impact is that going to have on soccer in the U.S.?
Look, Wayne, it's a great question. I think a lot of it depends on how well the USA performs. Because ultimately, if the U.S. don't get out of their group, no one is going to remember this World Cup, in my opinion, at least in this country. It may be known as the Great World Cup in terms of other teams and how they performed, whether Ronaldo wins his first World Cup, Messi wins a second. But for me, we're living and dying on how well the USA performs. So my expectation is at least you have to get out of your group and then win a knockout game. And then we're talking this next generation of kids are watching USA on their television in a knockout game against the Ronaldos, the Messis, the Mbappes. And who knows, home field advantage. You never know in any sport. Anything can happen, but especially in soccer and football, anything can happen in a knockout game in the World Cup. So who knows? We might be looking at the USA in a semifinal match 6 months down the line.
Well, stepping back real quickly, so you said getting out of their group. How does that work with the World Cup?
Yeah, so right now, and how the layout works is there's 8 groups of 4. So to get out of your group, you have to be top 2, and then some of the best teams, some of the best third place teams will get through. So essentially for the USA, they have 3 games that are guaranteed. Their group right now is Paraguay, Australia, and then a third team that will be announced in March. So ideally, when you think about having 3 games, you have to win at least one. You have to beat one team. If you tie another game, if you finish on 4 points, if you win one, tie one, lose one, you're most likely going through. Ideally, for the USA, again, with home field advantage, the team being a lot better than we were previously, we should be trying to be first in our group. So what that means is winning at least 2 games out of 3.
So if the USA wins 2 out of 3, they go to the knockout round. Like, what happens if they win one? You said get to the semifinals, even the finals. I mean, like, what do you think would happen here in the U.S. if that actually went on?
I think for me, being on the coach level for like these last couple of years and going back to my playing days, you see the participation in youth exponentially growing. And I think right now, I just saw a statistic the other day that soccer in the U.S. has now overtaken baseball as the 3rd most popular sport. And for me, it might not ever catch the NBA or NFL because of how large that gap is. But I do think the USA performing well in the World Cup could be such a launch pad for kids getting involved, saying, Mom, Dad, I want to be the next Christian Pulisic or whoever the next star is. Because for me, my first memory of sport in general is the USA beating Algeria in a World Cup group stage, but the goal sent them to the knockout round. And I didn't have any idea of how much a World Cup meant to me or the USA or in general, but that moment for me got me into the sport. So I'm putting myself in the position of kids today, and the fact that it's in the United States and kids might be at that game, ball boying the game in and around the stadium. I think it being in this country, I'm hoping and praying, and part of the reason I'm on and talking about it with you and other people is I want as many people that I can put their eyes on this tournament. I'm in for it, because if things go well, it could be such an incredible moment for the United States, but specifically with soccer in the United States.
Well, it certainly could really be an incredible impact to the U.S., to overall culture, right? I mean, there's so much that could change. And so maybe just share with our audience here what you're doing specifically. I mean, you have a significant amount of followers on social media. You have a number of young people that you train. What are you personally doing?
Yeah. So outside of when I finished college, I obviously wanted to stay involved in the sport. It's my passion. It's what I know and understand the most. So why deviate from that? And I always coached. I always loved working with kids. I like to think I have the humor of a 14-year-old, even though I'm 24, turning 25. So it always blended really well to working with kids, getting my point across. I think I'm a very good communicator. And that turned into something where, as an entrepreneur, I wanted to grow a training business. So that started out of college with 5 or 6 kids, has eventually grown into 20 or 25 kids right now that I work on a somewhat regular basis. And the idea behind the social media at first was to promote my business. So I would record myself with a GoPro strapped onto my chest. I would train kids. You'd hear me in the background shouting, pass it back with your left, shoot with your right, etc. And I was like, I don't know how many people want to watch young kids train in soccer. I didn't think it was the most interesting thing myself, and I'm the one putting it together and editing it. So I was like, what's the next thing that I want to do? And I've always been really, my best trait at soccer was I was able to shoot the ball very well. So I started going to the field, started recording myself. One thing led to another. A video did really well. I bent a ball in the top corner. I don't know how I did it. I'll probably never do it again. And I saw a little bit of a niche. I'm going to go to the field. I'm going to shoot, and people like watching me shoot. Flash forward to about 3 months ago, and I thought to myself, hey, I love that people respect me for my soccer ability, my ability to put a soccer ball in the net, but I don't want to be known by the back of my head and the back of my feet. So how can I segue into something else? And that's where becoming a soccer commentator, podcaster really developed these last couple months. I love talking about the sport. I love inspiring people that are casual fans to get into the sport. But I think I have an opinion that is interesting. And I also think there's such a niche in this country for people like myself that want to talk about the sport. Because let's be honest, the sport was invented in Europe. So those pundits or commentators know the most about the sport. The USA is slowly catching up, but I saw an opportunity for myself to be this young content creator that knows how to edit videos, loves the sport, will literally watch anything that's on TV. I have it running. I have either games or talk shows just running on my TV. I'll leave, get groceries, come out, it's still on. And I right now see an opportunity with the World Cup 5 months out for me to be a point person for a casual fan, a diehard fan, anyone that just wants to learn about the game and hear my opinion. I think there's a big opportunity for me to take advantage of that these next 5 months and then beyond post the World Cup.
So, you love it, right? You're incredibly passionate about soccer. You've played your whole life. I mean, by the way, your videos of shooting were amazing. And when you, in such a really smart way of doing it where, even just when you're trying to hit the crossbar and that sound was really amazing what you did with that. But I mean, going back to, just the amount of people that are going to have an opportunity to get exposed to the highest levels of soccer, here in North America. What do you think some of the things that people will get, what they'll get exposed to that they'll love, and some of the things that really made you love this game?
My favorite thing about the sport is the passion that the players play with. And you can say that for any sport, but for me, especially on the global stage, you see players playing for more than just themselves, their family. They're playing for their country. They represent their country. And when you see the parallel I can give it to is when I saw in the Olympics, Steph Curry, this must have been a couple years ago, went on, they were playing, I think it was it might have been Slovenia. I might be messing that up, but it was the final of the World Cup, and Steph Curry was going nuclear. And for me, watching him, look, he is one of the best, if not best, scorers of all time in NBA. But he was playing with this energy that was more than him, and he was representing his country in that moment. And that was something that the World Cup is that, but every single game, because let's be honest, the USA have dominated basketball for years and years. When it comes to soccer on the world stage, it's up for grabs. So you have a tournament where really, going even back to the USA, anyone can win the tournament, and there is no favorite. There is a favorite, but there's many favorites, and you're going to see games where everything is up for grabs. You're seeing players, coaches, fans that this tournament means everything to them.
Well, I mean, you hit on something really fascinating. I mean, this is a gigantic moneymaker. I mean, just global soccer, right? But this is the World Cup, and this is the every 4 years. It's a massive event. As you said, people come from all around the world to watch their team. They watch their country. What do you think that's going to be like, and what is that overall economic impact going to look like here in the U.S.
Yeah,
in Mexico and Canada as well, just all of North
yeah,
America?
absolutely. You're going to have an influx of, I'm not sure the exact number, hundreds of thousands of people coming into these countries, eating the food, staying in hotels, going to bars to watch the game. And if played well, there is tremendous opportunity, especially for the host cities. For me living in Philadelphia and being around bars and being around restaurants, there are going to be just more people on the ground, more people that are not from this country looking to, experience the Philadelphia life, the New York City life. And it just creates a tremendous opportunity for these host cities in particular to benefit off it. And I do think that is a double-edged sword because there is the opportunity to take advantage of the high demand. But at the end of the day, it's like anything else, supply and demand. But there is a tremendous opportunity for even companies that are not in any way associated with the World Cup. I mean, I'm sure Uber drivers are going to have a lot of business taking people to and from games or to and from bars or to and from watch parties. I think it trickles down to a level. Even just being at the Club World Cup this past summer, which was nowhere near what the World Cup was going to be. It was a little bit like an appetizer, a preview. But even those games were packed. The fans are shirtless within 10 minutes. And those games didn't really mean that much. But just the opportunity for the European fan to come to this country and express their personality, show where they're from, their traditions. It just, to me, sounds like a 1.5 party of all these different cultures coming together. And then the product is the on-field, the game. But that's almost in a way secondary because of how much is the buzz and what's going to surround the actual game outside stadiums, bars, restaurants, clubs, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like this incredible party that we're going to have. I mean, it's, the well over a month this coming summer. It'll be like a full-on party with, as you were, like Super Bowls every single day. Like that's how big these games are, and that's how much viewership that these games will get all around the world.
Absolutely.
So, talking about your career, what was sort of your defining moment? Like, what was the thing when you were playing youth soccer that led you to play at the University of Pennsylvania? What was the thing for you that really shaped who you are today?
Yeah, it's funny when you sent me the questions beforehand. This is the one I left blank because I wanted to answer in the spur of the moment because there's a lot of different answers I think of. And the true answer is when I first started playing and when I was progressing as a youth soccer player, I got cut a lot and I wasn't particularly good. And I remember there being a lot of players that were better than me. My friends were better than me. And that just drove me to just be better than everyone else. And that's where my competitiveness comes out. My passion comes out is when it came to sport, when it came to soccer, I just wanted to be better than everyone else. And that started from being cut and put down and and being made to feel less than people, at least athletically. But at the time, I took that personally. It was like, if you're going to cut me, you think less of me as a person. And that really, from a young age, my parents always instilled in me a notion of you got cut, you're either going to quit or you're going to work and you're going to make the team the next year or the next year. And that really filters into everything for my life. I think if everything was straightforward and you just got everything the first time, there would be no value and no reward to really working for something. So I would say what really shaped me as an athlete, but more so human being, was constantly being cut and not being good enough at a young age, and learning those lessons when I was 12, 13, when those lessons are able to be learned and important to be learned. And it shaped me from a standpoint of whatever I do now. I would like to say I'm a very balls to the wall person. I'm either all in or all out. And if I'm all in or something and it doesn't go well the first time, it was just like being cut in youth soccer. I'm going to come back. I'm going to do it better. I'm going to do it bigger. And at some point, something's going to stick. So, like I said, I think it was a blessing not having this God-given talent. I always had to work for everything I had in the sport.
So how do you, as a coach today, working with younger, athletes, and how do you instill that same kind of drive and desire and passion and resiliency? I think is the biggest thing, right? To be able to okay, you got cut, you didn't make the team. Now that you got to just keep going. If you love this and you believe that you want to do this, how do you talk to them about that?
It's a great question. I think every kid is a different challenge. And my challenge as a coach, as a mentor, and as a leader is to understand what really pushes each individual and what kid. What motivates one might not motivate another. And my ability to communicate and communicate well can ultimately shape a kid's career in soccer, but also shape their personality. Look, I don't see kids every day of the week, but I like to think that hour or 2 hours every week I work with a kid and work with the families ultimately, because you're not just working with the kid. I have a lot of players I work with where I'm really close with the parents, because it's a team effort. They can see me for an hour and then go back to their parents and they're getting different information. So again, for me, the kids I like to work with are the ones that are passionate, because they'll bounce that and it'll come right back off and they'll get my energy. But the resiliency is something that it takes a while to be taught. I have experience, but I think it comes from a tough love situation. A lot of my favorite players that I work with and have a really good relationship, if they're not doing something to my standard, I'm going to tell them. And I don't care if they're 8 or 14 years old, they need to hear it. There's no sugarcoating, because I know ultimately my best mentors and coaches were the ones that told me how things were, and it was cut and dry. There was no fluff around it. It was, you need to get better at this. And at the time when I was young, it didn't resonate that they were trying to make me better players. It was coaches being hard on me. But he's being hard on you because coach is being hard on me because I can take that information, I can handle it. So just trying to be that figure in these kids' lives. And then I'll take it one step further. When I say mentor, I think there's a lot you can learn from the sport that goes beyond learning how to handle defeat. Even yesterday, I was running a session and a kid was crying because he lost the 2v2 game. And I'm like, Jack, his name's obviously not Jack. I was like, Jack, there are a lot more games you're going to play, a lot more important games, a lot more important things in life. If you react like that every time, this is not the sport for you. But just teaching those kids these lessons, because again, when I was 8 years old, I was probably crying when I lost a 2v2. But just teaching these kids life lessons and things that are going to stick with them, because I know how big of an impact coaches had on my lives, and the really good ones, and also the ones that I didn't like so much. There's the good comes with the bad. So if I can just be a positive influence on these kids' lives, where 10 years down the line, look, ideally they're all professional soccer players, but that's not going to happen. If they just remember me as a really good and positive influence on their lives, I think I did my job.
So did you have a specific coach or mentor that you sort of looked up to, or really changed the direction of your career?
Yeah, I had a coach I worked with who was a former U.S. men's national team player, exceptional player. And he pushed me harder than anyone had pushed me until college. And I didn't realize until college why he was so hard on me. At first, like I was saying before, it was Coach Jeremiah is just hard on me for no reason. But he knew what I was capable of and knew what I needed to do to take my game to the next level. But again, it's very hard when you're in the moment and someone is making a point out of you in front of other people. This, Alex did this wrong. But it takes a real level of maturity. And I think it's hard for a kid to understand long term. So again, for me, in my position, being young and able to communicate, I try to the best of my abilities, tough love where it's needed, and then when the session's over, bring the kid aside. Why do you think I was so difficult on you today? It's not just because I enjoy yelling at you or being, raising my voice. It's because, your level was down here today. It should be up here every time. And you'd be surprised. Some 8-year-olds actually really understand that point, which is impressive. And those are the ones I know. Number one, they have that passion, that passion and that like dog in them, which every kid needs in sport. You got to be a dog. So long story short, yeah, my coach Jeremiah really, now being a coach, I think you take things from people, and his style of coaching and his ability to really push me is something I try to pass on to other kids as a coach.
And now, not only being a coach, but also being, someone who's out there expressing your opinions on social media, really talking about the overall sport, the impact that it has on young people, the impact that it has on this country and the world, your incredible fandom for Arsenal, and just being able to really talk about the game and the impact that it has. What are some of the things that you're doing today on social media? What platforms are you using? How are you expressing all these opinions and doing it?
Yeah, so my biggest platform in terms of following right now is Instagram, where I have 72,000 followers. TikTok, I also use 13,000, and then Facebook, and then I'm going to start on YouTube as well. That's a point I want to make for the next 5 months leading up to the World Cup. And for me, as you said in your intro, I'm just providing my opinion. I like to think no bias. When it comes to Arsenal, I definitely have a little bias. When it comes to the USA, I definitely have a little bias, but trying to just give my no filter opinion on the sport.
When you think about the, your fandom of Arsenal, I mean, you said 12 years ago became your team. How did that become your team? I mean, most people, in the US, they pick an NFL team, they got a MLB team. Maybe they even have an MLS team right in the area. But how did you all of a sudden go to the Premier League and pick Arsenal?
Yeah, it was the first jersey that I can't remember who gifted it to me, but it was the first soccer jersey I ever was gifted. So I started watching on TV, and when you watch team and you get emotionally attached and invested, from there it turns into something that you never would have expected. When I first started watching, there was a player by the name of Alexis Sanchez, and he played with such vigor and energy, and I really thought when I was watching on TV that I was kicking the soccer ball with him, because he just cared so much. A Chilean player that just wanted to win so bad, and it was one of those leaders that you have in any sport that it just felt like he was carrying the team on his back. When things weren't going well, or when the team needed a goal, or the team needed a moment. And I just resonated with him, because I think nowadays, and this is something that I'm excited for in the World Cup, there's so many games that you play. The NBA, for example, 82 games. And I must say, like, when you watch some of the games on TV, it's like, does this specific game really matter to the player when there's 82 games? The NFL, without a doubt, there's 17 games now, and it's a short season. Every game matters. Win, a loss, a tie, it matters in the standings. But when you have 160 plus games in baseball, 82 games in the NBA, I don't think every game matters to the players, nor should it when you're managing an injury. Look at someone like Joel Embiid. He can't even play every game because of his knees and whatnot. So for me, I love seeing in any sport, but specifically soccer, an athlete that puts their all into every second of the game and plays like they're trying to make their next paycheck, like they're trying to feed their family. And that's what Alexis Sanchez brought to me as a viewer. And that's where I got really inspired and fell in love with Arsenal through him, through a player, actually. Ironically, I say the jersey, but the jersey was the entree to starting to watch. And then from there, again, once you get attached to a team, and I think what was unique was I started to learn more about the sport and understand the sport because I was progressing as a player and actually watching film of myself and just watching more of a sport, you actually gain knowledge on the sport in general, and you appreciate some of the things that your team or when your team has a great game or a player makes a great pass, you're like, wow, that was more difficult than it looked on TV.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point of view. I mean, I think it is something that you start to see. It's almost like a slower game in the Premier League, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and like you're describing, and I think that's it's just interesting. But at the same time, when they go right, when the level of talent is incredible, right?
Incredible. I was watching a game last night. So usually in terms of content, the night before I'll watch YouTube and I'll watch a game, or um, I'll watch another commentary show. ESPN FC, for example, is the ESPN version of the soccer talk show, and I'll watch that and I'll see what they're talking about, and I'll just write on my phone, I want to do a video on the Premier League, um, the Premier League games from this weekend, etc. But last night I was actually watching Barcelona played in a game in Spain against another really good team and lost. And I was watching the game and I was like, this reminds me of an MLS game. It was bombing up and down, balls going forward, shots on goal from outside the box, turnovers, counterattacks. And I was like, I need to start watching more Spain, because the Premier League right now, and there's a rhetoric around it that it's boring. There was this past weekend 3 back-to-back games until a team scored. It was like 240 minutes of no goals, and my team is can be very boring to watch. Arsenal is a very risk-averse team. We are a defensive team that keeps clean sheets. We don't give up goals, and our manager, our coach, if he could win every game 1-0, absolutely, he would be fine with it. He'd rather win 1-0 than 5-0, which sounds ironic, but he loves to keep a clean sheet, which means not giving up a goal. That's what he strives for, and that's unique in sport, because look, in baseball, as a pitcher, you don't want to give up runs, but runs are going to happen. In soccer, you can go a whole game without doing what you're supposed to do, or not allowing the other team to do what they're supposed to do. So Arsenal is a team that every time they go out, their first job is to not concede a goal. And then from there, when you look at it, the bare minimum is a tie, because, again, in other sports, they don't have a tie. So from a manager perspective, if you can shore up the defensive part of the field and be really rigid and structured in your defensive half, all you need is one goal, one lucky break, and you can win every game like that. That's how Arsenal play, and it's very boring to watch at times, unfortunately. But as long as they win the championship, I couldn't care less.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, coming from you, I mean, someone who's a shooter, right? Who likes to score goals.
Yeah.
Well, do you think there will be Cinderella stories similar to like March Madness, where all of a sudden, like a team out of nowhere, just
Absolutely. Absolutely. So last World Cup, Morocco made it to the semifinal and actually put up a fight against France in the semifinal. They had opportunities to go up in the game, didn't, and then France went on to win. But there's just so much unpredictability to the tournament. The fact that the amount of pressure, and you can't say to me, and I get these are professionals that have dealt with every situation, but they feel the pressure. There is a country relying on them to perform, not just their city, not just a state, a country of millions and millions of people. So that in itself will provide a lot of variance to results. Some players that are playing even better than they ever imagined. Some of the best players falling below their level. No, there will absolutely be dark horses. Again, the U.S. should be one of them because of the fact that we are hosting the tournament.
well, I mean, talk about some of the fans. I mean, fans in soccer. I mean, it's a whole nother level, right?
Yeah, so there was this African tournament I alluded to. It's called the African Cup of Nations that just finished yesterday. And there was a fan from the Democratic Republic of Congo. There was a fan. He was honoring some political figure, and he stood up at every game for 90 plus minutes he was saluting or with his hand up. He stood dead still, did not move a muscle for each game. So 90 plus minute plus halftime, he didn't move. And I was watching this, and I was just in awe, first of all, that you would, number one, go to a game and just stand there still. But number two, the dedication to your country. I just had never seen anything like it. I can show you the clip. It's really inspiring. He did not move a muscle. it's like the St. Joe's hawk that always flaps his wings. But I think that's easier than standing still, in my opinion, especially when you're watching a game and you're attached to what's going on to not break character or whatnot. So that was just something I picked up on from one of the Congolese fans. But yeah, the passion associated with the sport is it's the closest thing to it is Philly sports fans. Let's be honest. I mean, you go to an Eagles game, it's not much different. But I do think the difference is the passion and playing for your country. And now we're talking about it's more than just the game.
Let's just compare American football to soccer real quick. I mean, you talk about in American football, right? You have the quarterback. So typically he's the one that everyone focuses on, right? As the main player. Who's the main player in soccer?
Yeah, it depends on the team. I think the most important player, again, also varies. I think goalkeeper is such a unique position. And I think that's the most similar to a quarterback, because quarterback can make 35 good throws a game, but that 36 that turns into a pick six and loses the game, you remember him for it. Same with the goalkeeper. You can make 7 amazing saves, but that 8 shot that you let in, that's the only thing that you see on the scoreboard. You don't see how many saves you have. So I think the goalkeeper exudes, if he is a strong figure, and he communicates in a good way, he can promote so much confidence in a team. And on the other hand, if you have a goalie that's not strong and doesn't look confident, it trickles forward. You're almost like, I need to score 3 goals today because I know my goalkeeper is going to give up at least 2.
We talked about that we were going to talk about technology in soccer and how it's being used, but you think, just let's talk about it from this perspective, from a penalty kick, right? Or a penalty shot, right? I mean, like, you have a shot on goal, right? Do you go through your mind like, okay, I know this goalie is not really is better going to his left, to his right, this, that. I mean, like, are you thinking about all those things? How do you deal with that?
So I'll flip it to the contrary. Goalies now will have a water bottle and will say, this player goes to the left most of the time. This player goes to the right. This player goes to the right. And again, I keep going back.
What do you mean? Like it's written on the water?
He writes on his water bottle like a playbook for a penalty shootout. Alex goes to his left or down the middle to the right. The second player. So, I mean, it's like being a goalkeeper, being a good penalty saving goalkeeper is a humongous advantage. The USA, actually, the reason the USA goalie, who's actually a Harvard grad, a Episcopal Academy grad, or Episcopal Academy and Haverford, I think he went, Episcopal Academy grad, a local mainline kid, is now going to be the starter of the 2026 World Cup U.S. men's national team soccer team, which is a story in itself. But the reason he really cemented his place is he had a PK shootout this past summer where he saved 3 penalties. And it was like, you know what? If he can save penalties, he can do at least one part of the game really well. But they write down on their water bottles, what way people go. So on the contrary, I'm sure attacking players know the tendencies of goalies. But it comes down to, it's a mind game. It doesn't have to do with your ability. Look, if you put the ball in the top corner, the goalie's not going to save it. But it's also, people shoot down the middle, people chip the ball down the middle, and it's a mind game. It's just you. I'm gonna go. It's like a game of chess. Who's gonna move first? The goalie, the player. It's hard to watch as a fan, to be honest, because there's just so much pressure. It really is but when you go to the technology piece, like you said, I'm sure there are advantages you can get, but again, going back to when you do something in a controlled environment versus a situation like a World Cup penalty, it's really hard to emulate that with any sort of technology or statistics.
I mean, you're taking thousands and thousands of kicks, right, in practice. Yeah. But then when the lights are on and the world's watching, it's tough.
It's different. It's completely different. It turns into, like I said, it's just it's the mental piece, the mental side. I think that's where the players that are really confident and can deal with all the shenanigans. I mean, goalies will stall. They'll kick. They'll dig up the penalty spot. Sometimes they'll kick up the penalty spot, and a player will wipe out. Like there's mind games that go on. You got the fans behind the net that are God knows what explicit. What they're shouting to the players. Yeah, it's a crazy concept when you really think about it.
Well, Alex, again, thank you so much for joining us on our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. So where can people find you and all your amazing content that you're putting out there about the World Cup and about all the things that you talk about across the world of soccer?
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram is AK Footy, AKFOOTY. My initials are AK. Footy is like an American slang term, so that's what I went with. And then you can find me in the same tag on TikTok. And then on YouTube, if you just look up my name. But right now, my two major platforms are Instagram, TikTok, and anyone that wants to follow me, collab, debate, analyze, I'm here for it.
Well, thank you so much. Good luck with everything, and I look forward to continuing this conversation all the way through to this summer when the World Cup begins.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to be back on the show.
On behalf of the entire 76 Capital team, thank you for joining us for this edition of our Sports Leadership Show. Please remember to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast network or on the 76 Capital website. You can also explore the hundreds of episodes we've produced over the past several years on those same networks. And as always, go out there and make it happen.